and you are very deeply associated with NU, but you have not discussed very much about NU's position where the elections is concerned, and associated with that, how you think the Islamic vote would swing, and also associated with that, the issue of identity politics, which was a big issue in the last elections between the conservatives and not so conservative Islam. So perhaps you can give us some insights and share some comments on that. For Pak Anies, looking at how you've been assessing Reformasi and its aspirations, you focus more on the politics. Can you also share with us, in terms of policies, policies that you think have fulfilled the aspirations of Reformasi, but and other policies that you think still have some ways to go in fulfilling the aspirations of Reformasi? Maybe we start with Ibu Yenny first.
Okay. There are two. I mentioned before that President Jokowi's endorsement will deeply color the contestation, and that whoever gets the support of Pak Jokowi will get a big boost in the election. And the second big force in Indonesian politics, and I'm not saying this because I'm from NU, but actually the data suggests that, is that whoever gets the NU voters will also win. I mean, this is very obvious in the last election, during Pak Jokowi's election, because the contested area, the contested province was East Java, and East Java is a stronghold of NU. So whoever can get East Java, in a way, will also get a big boost in the election. So I think Pak Anies should take notes of that. So when it comes to Islamic voters, of course, this is very interesting because the Muslims do not vote in one single mode. You know, the Muslims are very much spread across diverse spectrums. So we've got the Islamic votes. I mean, the Islamic votes and the Islamist votes are very different. You know, the Islamist votes, of course, would, to be frank, would naturally vote for Pak Anies. And the other Muslims, especially the NUs, have not been decided yet. So if Pak Anies plays right with us, maybe we'll endorse him. So we'll see. But anyway, but what is interesting is that the fact that the chairman of NU now, Kiai Yahya Khalil Stakuf, already stated that NU is not going to be involved in practical political matters. So NU is not going to officially endorse a candidate as an organization. So of course, this opens the possibilities of the candidates to talk to our grassroots directly and talk to the structural, what do you call it, organizers of NU, as well as the cultural elements of NU. So the NU votes will be very much decided by the influencers within NU, not necessarily by the structural body of NU, but of course they carry a big weight. But the pesantrens, the religious schools might have different preferences as well. So in a way, it's very hard to just put them in one basket and say that, oh, NU is going to back this candidate or that candidate. But when it comes to the data, actually, most NU voters, when it comes to political party preferences, 25% of NU voters, the biggest chunk, actually votes for PDIP. And the least with PKS. So from there, you can see that despite the fact this is an Islamic communities, but we are the NU communities, the NU people feel more at ease with the nationalist figures. And the latest data also suggests that NU voters will likely vote for Pak Ganjar to this point. than to other candidates, but Pak Anies comes second, especially in the province of Madura, not the province yet. They want to have to become a province, but not yet. But the island of Madura is a more conservative elements of NU there, and there Pak Anies actually enjoys quite a high popularity level in Madura. So I hope that answers your question, Pak.
Thank you, Ibu Yenny. Pak Anies?
With regard to reform, if I may outline, what were the demands of the reform in '98? What were the demands? There are 6 issues. One is bring Suharto and his cronies to justice. That was 1. 2 is amendment to the constitutions on limiting presidential terms and also strengthening democratic institutions. So that's demand number 2. Number 3 is eliminations of the dual functions of ABRI. Number 3, that's 3. Number 4 is autonomy, regional autonomy, wider regional autonomy. Number 5 is eradications of corruption, collusion, and nepotisms, KKN. That was very famous then. And number 6 is establishing equality before the law, or supremacy of rule of law. So those are 6 agenda. And if you look at the 6 agenda, the highest achievement on that was agenda number 4, regional autonomy. We are seeing a massive transformations of not only decentralization, but devolutions. So extensive devolutions in Indonesia that have empowered regional government to be more effective. The challenge is this, and if I may say, as someone who also served in local governments in Jakarta, the challenge is empowering the civil society, the local political institutions to be more active in a democratic process at the local level. When you're serving in Jakarta, then it's there. The civil society activism is there because the national level and the Jakarta level is something that you cannot separate between the two. So being governor in Jakarta, immediately you are part of the national engagement in politics and social issues. But in the regions far away from the capital city, we have been seeing trends of non-democratic tendency of leadership at the local levels. And we have been seeing trends of emergence of dynasties, families that control political institutions. The father become a mayor, and then later on the wife, and then not long after that, the nephew, not long after that, it's emerging. And we are seeing this trend in Indonesia now. So if I may look at those 6 issues, one of the most challenging for us is rule of law. And if Indonesia is divided into 3 major areas that needs to work together and operate in a sync way. 1 is the market, 2 is democratic process or politics, and 3 is rule of law. The first 2, we're doing good, generally speaking. But rule of law, we're still behind. And I think this is one of the biggest agenda that needs to be addressed in a serious way in the coming years. And then with regards to collusion and nepotism, that's the same thing. So that's those 6 issues, if I may comment, where the agenda of the reform 25 years ago and where we are today. Now, with regard to, if I may also comment on some of this electoral behavior, I think we are adding to what Ibu Yenny said earlier. What we are seeing is mixed messages. On the one hand, you're seeing a survey result that shows where people vote based on policy preference. On the one hand, we're seeing that. On the other hand, we are seeing also vote based on identities, based on cultural and emotional reasons. And I think we are seeing that mixed message. Bu Yenny explained earlier on the graph where characteristic of leadership that matters to the electorates, especially the young people. But on the other hand, we are seeing voting behaviors of the electorates in the elections where they vote based on identity lines. So we are seeing that mixed messages. But what I'd like to underline here, the fact that we are living in a society where community matters. Community matters a lot. And the smallest unit of that community is family. So, in my observations, if you are in a family where you have a leniency toward one political party, most likely the Gen Z in that family, the millennials in that family would be voting along that line. Family influence behavior, electoral behavior within the family. And in the community, the same thing, in the kampung, in the village. When the leadership in the kampung have that tendency, it tends to influence. There are exceptions of families in that community that vote independently from the rest of the community. You see that cases. But generally speaking, collectively, they're voting in the same direction, collectively. And this is rather different, perhaps, compared to the West, in which individual behavior is accepted more or higher in a way compared to collective behavior. So I'm seeing that in the case of Indonesia. And if I may also add a little bit on that democracy, I experienced serving Jakarta 5 years. Maintaining quality of democracy requires you to reach every single groups within your, in my case, Jakarta, in my territory. Jakarta experienced the highest democracy index consistently in the past 5 years, far above other provinces. We have completely freedom of expressions, and government of Jakarta never sue anyone that criticize, that even send hoax to the government of Jakarta, never. We are allowing complete freedom of expressions. And during that 5 years, we're not seeing one, violence, religious violence, even conflict of religious in an open way, none. And what we are, I think, in our experience, the winning party needs to reach all sectors, especially reaching out to the losing parties. If that is not done, then we are not going to see democracy that is vibrant, that is consolidating. And that's based on my experience. And if you look at the national level, that's often the case. The winning party failed to reach out to the losing parties. And in fact, more pressure to the losing party. And that creates divisions, and that creates sense of uneasiness along the way. Let me end my comment there. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Anies. Okay, now I would like to open the time to the floor. I'm sure there are some burning questions around. We'll take one round of questions first. Anyone? Yes, there's 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay, let's take 4 first. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Terima. I served in the ASEAN Secretariat for nearly 20 years, and my family consider Jakarta a very happy second home. My question is, what will happen to the Nusantara program to move capital city from Jakarta after President Jokowi's term ends? I assume that it will continue, or will it become a new presidential election issue? Thank you.
Yes, we have another.
So the question is about the future of Nusantara.
Thank you. I'm Richard Borsuk, a longtime and struggling Indonesia student. And my question actually is quite similar to the last, but let me put it a little more directly. Pak Anies, you want to be president. If you become president, will you stop the funding for Nusantara, or will you keep pushing it ahead? Thank you.
Okay, we have two other questions here. I hope it's not about Nusantara.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Viveko Radian. I'm from Indonesia, from a student of Gajah Mada. Actually, besides democracy, there's one thing that our founding fathers has established, secularism. It's not as harsh as the one practiced in France or Turkey, but a more friendly one towards our religious diversity. It safeguards Indonesia from government based on racial or religious lines, such as maybe our northern neighbor. However, there are still conflicts here and there created by the Islamic radicals, such as terrorism, the use of religious rhetorics on elections, and preventing the building of churches, temples. So my question is, how can Indonesia prevent from backsliding into Islamic radicalism? Thank you.
Okay, one more question from that side. Yes.
So I'm sorry, it's actually related to Nusantara, but very different perspective.
Okay.
If I may.
30 seconds.
Sure. Assuming that Indonesia's political history is deep-rooted with the role of public sentiments as well as the military involvement, does the concept of Nusantara city appeal to the youths right now? And if they do, it would be a great support for presidents in future. But if it doesn't, how does the traditional elites, such as the military officers, NGOs, react to the shift in the historical Mandala from Java to Borneo, where the city is going to be located?
Okay.
I missed the last part.
How will traditional elites, such as military officers and NGOs, react to the shift of the Mandela from Java to Borneo?
So I think we take these 4 questions first. And they seem to all be directed at Pak Anies.
Why everyone is talking about Nusantara and the new capitals? This is yes, indeed, it is one of the examples where decisions about not only relocations of our capital, but building a new city. You have to differentiate between the two. Relocating capital is one thing. Building a new city is another thing. Relocations of capital city, you have an example, from Bonn to Berlin, from Istanbul to Ankara. That's the relocations of your capital. But the case that we are now having in Indonesia is constructing a new city in the middle of basically a rainforest area, and it is a challenge. It will not be complete in any time soon. It is a very long-term project, and the decisions on that have been evaluated. The decision-making process has been evaluated many times, and we did not have that open, intensive, and extensive conversations on why we need to establish a new capital and why we need to relocate to the capital. So this is still an issue that is debated in academic circles, but rarely debated in the political arena openly in Jakarta. None. You're not seeing political party leaders expressing their view. You're not seeing business leaders expressing their view publicly, openly. None. Privately, yes. In the closed session, yes. And you can imagine what will be the conclusions of those private sessions, of those closed sessions. But openly, none. And this is what I mean by, in a democracy, you have to create an environment of openness, a sense of freedom, that you're able to express your view without worrisomes of any negative backlash consequences. Having said that, if I were here only as academicians, I would have answered this completely. Okay, now I have to wait for this. To be honest, later I'll answer these questions once it is more clear toward the future. But for now, my answer is standards. My answer is standard. To be honest, my standard is standard. This is no longer a proposal. This is already a law. There was a law of the land stating that Indonesia is going to establish a new capital, and we're moving into that directions. So whoever is now in charge, they have to follow the law. Let me end my answer there. Thank you.
How about the question about Islamic radicalism, how to prevent it?
Yeah. Let me just add a bit about the Nusantara, add my thoughts on that. And I can see that Pak Anies had probably had a long thought on how to craft the message when it comes the time to answer that question. And I don't envy him in that position, and I think he gave a fitting answer to the question. It's a very sensitive question, and it's but the IKN, the Nusantara, of course, is the baby of Pak Jokowi. And this is, and of course, from what I can gather, that he has every intention to see the baby grows and be his legacy. So I think one could assume that a support for the idea of Nusantara would be one of the factors that would lead to his endorsement of the candidate. So I think this is where Pak Anies was very wise in his answer earlier. Which shows to me also, as I'm here I suppose as someone that is outside of the political arena, so I can take a more objective and position, and that's very interesting. You know, the fact that Pak Anies actually does not answer directly Pak Anies, because it shows that Pak Anies still wants to build bridges with Pak Jokowi, and that is news, I think, for many of the media in Indonesia, and you know that well, not media, for the people in Indonesia who readily put Pak Anies in one box and then Pak Jokowi in another box. So that also shows the fluidity of politics in Indonesia. You can have very strange bedfellows. You never know. Maybe PKS will join Pak Jokowi's coalition for the next election. You never know. It could happen in Indonesia, just like DAP. So, yes, so Islamic radicalism, is there a possibility that Indonesia would go into that direction? You know, 3 decades ago, the first time that my father stepped foot in church, he got lots of criticism. We got lots of threats. You know, he got lots of just attacks, basically. First time that he stepped foot in, he visited Jerusalem, we've got the phone just rang nonstop. Those days, it was still the landlines, right? Not mobile phones. So every 5 minutes, there would be someone calling to say, threaten to burn our house down, to, you know, chop our heads down, and, you know, stuff like that. So, but now, we're actually seeing more and more people coming out and saying the same things, doing the things that Gus Dur did in the past. And they don't have to be religious leaders. They could be anyone who believes that the space of democracy should be defended, not be dominated by any particular group, especially group that plays the identity politics cards. So I think in that sense, I am still very optimistic about the future of Indonesia. In our societal dynamics, but when it comes to politics, and that's a different matter. We will have momentary time where political rhetorics raise issues religious issues, religious cards will be used as cards, as issues that would be used, to consolidate the support from the people. We will see that, and we will see momentary setbacks. But in the long run, I don't think Indonesia will go into an Islamic state kind of future.
On that note, if I may continue a little bit, is we had an experience in Jakarta where election in 2017 was very spirited, to put it in a polite way. Very spirited elections. And people thought it was divisive in the public. And we may be seeing that. And we have gone through 5 years after that. Has Jakarta experienced tensions in the past 5 years? None. Has Jakarta experienced religious extremism in the 5 years? Signs of that? If you can see any, show it to me. I didn't see any. Any activities that shows intolerance toward practice of certain groups? None. I think one of the very important aspects here to say, if reaching out and bridging to all groups is key. The winning party, I was the winning part at that time, had to reach out to all groups. All groups. And if I may use the word groups instead of minorities and majorities. And if I address to your questions as students from Gajah Mada, our founding fathers had never used the word minority or majority. Look at any document, none. None. They are talking about groups, golongan, but not majority and minority. What's the difference? Golongan is about diversity, minority and majority is about magnitude, scale, small and big. But diversity is never about scale. Diversity is about, there's so many groups. That's why the term that was used was golongan. Indonesia was founded for all golongan. Not for minority, not for majority, but for everyone. And the word itself is never majority and minority. So we started to practice that. The key word is keadilan sosial, social justice to all. So if leadership is addressing social justice, immediately you address peace. Immediately you address tolerance, because your ultimate goals is justice and equal opportunity for everyone, equal treatments for everyone. Jakarta has never experienced celebrations of religious holidays for all religious groups. 2019 was first time that Christmas carol was allowed in main street of Jakarta. Christmas trees was allowed main street of Jakarta. And when I was asked why, and I said, this is called justice. Equal opportunity for everyone. All groups. It's not about minority, it's not about majority, because our founding fathers has always been talking about equality and never about scale. The big and the small, not of that. And I think we need to come back into that message. The message of equality for all, because, peace that we would like to have is not about absence of violence. Peace that we'd like to have is about presence of justice. When you are seeing a presence of justice, immediately you're seeing peace. And that's what we need to address. And that's what we like to do in Indonesia, in Jakarta. So extremism is part of that issue. You need to address the reasoning beyond that, because religious extremism has always been there for hundreds of years. There are times they emerge and gain public support. There are times they never gain public support. What conditions that make the difference between the two? When you are seeing disparities, when you are seeing disparities between the have and the have-nots, the knows and the knows-not, the work and the work-not, then you are creating a fertile ground for extremism to grow. If you know religion, it will be religious extremism. If you don't know religion, then you'll be seeing Marxism extremism. Marxist extremism. That's sort of the fertile ground. That's what we need to address. Do not create fertile ground for extremism idea to grow. And if we're able to do that, then we'll be seeing more peaceful situations. Thank you.
I'm afraid we are running out of time. I just want to close on a note where you address one very important question. Ibu Yenny showed us that 80 to 90 million of the voters will be youth. Can both of you, like in the span of 1 minute each, share with us how best to reach out to this constituency, how to grab the youth vote? Ibu Yenny can, serve as a consultant on how to win the votes, and Pak Anies can share with us his strategy as well. Whether you will resort to TikTok or not, I don't know, but share with us what you think.
Yes, the voters' characteristics are quite interesting, the young voters, because they're superficial when it comes to substantive political issues. They are more inward-looking. They care more about their mental health. They care more about their own, the social advancement. They care more about their own small groups. They care less about political parties. They don't have the same kind of loyalty that their parents might have to any specific parties. They are influenced by their peers, but at the same time, they are also independent, fiercely independent. So it's a very, very multifaceted groups of people, and they want leaders that embody certain characteristics, and religion is not there. It's not one of them. It's very low in the rank. But at the same time, they will be easily motivated by identity politics as well. So this is on how to reach out to this group of people. Well, you need to be very well versed in the social media. We've got 90 million of TikTok users in Indonesia. Of course, you need to control that space as well. You need to be present, and I think this is where I think Pak Anies is quite very good. His social media handlers are top-notch. Pak Ganjar as well. And what is interesting about the candidates, right? Because Indonesian voters vote in an emotional way, not in a rational way. They don't vote based on candidates' track records. They vote based on their own projections, the imaginations of that candidate, regardless of whether it is based on facts or not. So if you don't have anything, if you're bland, like nasi putih, if you're not nasi lemak or nasi goreng, then voters simply do not acknowledge you. And we've seen candidates in which they don't even, they spend lots of money, millions of dollars in campaigns, and that's it. Their popularity rate remains low. But then you've got Pak Ganjar. Some people don't know him that well, but they know of him. They know of their imagination of him, and that's what they're going to vote for. And the same with Pak Anies. The same with Pak Prabowo. I mean, everyone who knows Indonesia's politics well enough would know that Pak Prabowo is a secular, comes from a secular family. Yet he carried the banner of Islamist group in the last election. Very much the same like Donald Trump. So that's the tricky part of the next election. What kind of imagination that the candidates will be able to implore in people's mind, whether he's a nationalist guy, whether he's someone who involved in identity politics, that matters also. And regardless of the efforts that you try to do, once you are put in certain box, it's very hard to undo that. So I think this is where every candidate has to be careful what kind of message, what kind of imaging that they're projected onto the voters.
Anis, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, let me give you some statistics. Yenny mentioned earlier about TikTok. Khairi also mentioned about TikTok. How many users of TikTok in Indonesia? It's 99.1 million. So it's almost 100 million users of TikTok. Instagram is second, 97 million. And then Facebook is 42 million, and Twitter is 18 million. So social media definitely is a place, in terms of reaching out, is a place where conversations started, created. The question is it translated into voting behaviors? That is the issue. Often case, it is not translated in the voting behaviors. It is reflected in Jakarta election. It is reflected in the national elections. And in fact, when we're talking about unity or cohesiveness and polarizations, in the social media is always polarizing, but that's not translated into real life where society is polarized. A study by Zulfikar Amir of Nanyang Technological University on Jakarta, whether Jakarta is polarized or Jakarta is cohesive. The conclusion is Jakarta is not polarized. Jakarta is very cohesive. But if you go to the social media, Jakarta is very polarized. So what I'm saying is this: yes, it is a channel where people find information when conversation is there, but I think still there is that wall in the penetrations of that conversations into voting behaviors. So, reaching out can be from social medias, but at the end of the day, I think the more traditional channels of informations, be it regular newspaper, be it online media, be it leaders' influence, is still matters in how the youth is choosing or directing their vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Although this session is unlike the Malaysia panel where you have people who really love each other but having healthy sparks between them, here we have a very, I think, more Javanese kind of session, eloquent, congenial, and Ibu Yenny offering a lot of excellent advice on how to run a presidential campaign. I'm sure you will be very sought after as a consultant.
And Pak Yufong, I just want to say that whoever gets our support will win.
And that's identity politics.
And with that, on that note, please join me in thanking our speakers for making this an exciting session.